Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports. Today is November 20th, 2024, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
What's going on out there, everybody? This is Ben Dickerson. I am your co-host. Week 12 is upon us, and things are starting to really come into shape as far as who's going to make the playoffs and who's not. Nothing set in stone just yet. A lot of division matchups coming up that are going to be very crucial to the final standings. A lot of fantasy implications going on late in the season, especially with some of these late bye weeks and very, very important fantasy players being out because of the buys. Other than that, if you're ready, I got some Who Would-a Thunk It's.
Go for it.
All right. Let me give you the first one. I know what I just said about the playoff situation not being in full clarity, but I'm pretty sure the Cincinnati Bengals aren't going to make it. Whether they do or not, the fact that they're playing so poorly makes it really weird that they are leading the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns and receptions and receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. And they have what? 4 wins? Who would have thunk it? Here's another one.
In fact, I do have the website, NFL website, and this is the who?
The Bengals.
The Bengals, 4-7.
Okay.
Wow. And they have all of those leading statistics, eh?
Yes. Pretty crazy. Most touchdowns by rookie quarterbacks. This is interesting. Leading the way is a guy that I must admit I didn't think would do this well his first year, and that is Bo Nix, or as my buddy Chief calls him, Bo Breeze. He is leading the rookie quarterbacks with 19 touchdown passes. After that, it's Jaden Daniels at 14. Drake May, who hasn't even played a full slate of games, is third with 10 touchdowns. And bringing up the rear is Caleb Williams with only 9. Who would have thunk it? Especially that Drake May thing. Way to go, Drake May. I know I talk bad about you, but you're chugging along. Here's another one. For the first time in their careers, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow all lost in the same weekend. There's an obscure one for you.
Yeah.
Okay. And last but not least, oh God. The Dallas Cowboys are the only American pro sports team without a home win in the year of 2024. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, I know they would not have. For sure. Wow.
And that's that.
Crazy stuff happened. You know, you had the firing of the Jets GM and some statements that came out from the owner. One that said that he thought that they should have benched Aaron after game 4, which I didn't understand at all. And then the other one, well, first of all, isn't this the GM? No, that was the Giants GM I'm thinking about. Jets GM is different. The Giants GM is the one that his son told him, don't let Saquon go. Sorry about that, but just, But yeah, they
said the same thing any fan would say.
Yeah. And so now I'm understanding that potentially Aaron Rodgers is not a lock to be with the Jets next year, that they're talking about moving on beyond Aaron Rodgers. So that drama show, we'll follow that, but it's not over because there was a question as to whether or not Aaron's influence had anything to do with them firing their GM.
After what's already happened on that team, that question has to come up, and nobody can say definitively that that's not a big possibility. Also, Whether or not he'll be with the team next year is still kind of speculative, but I mean, the signs are not pointing toward it.
The funny thing is, when you say speculative, there's people actually speculating what teams he might go to.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what they do. They're all speculating where Daniel Jones is going to go.
Speculating up a storm, and I'm thinking, okay, who would want that noise?
Somebody will.
Yeah.
If he wants to continue playing, he'll be on a team.
If they gave Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed contract after all he went through, anything is possible. So let's look at the number. Is that it, Benny? Is that it for your Who Would-a Thunk?
That's all I got.
All right, good group. Let's move on and take a quick look at the numbers with the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. And we have color again, Benny. Now, I want to differentiate a couple things. We got red at the top and red below that, and it actually means two different things. I wanted to highlight that number one ranking team for the four different areas that we track. Again, average net points, A&P, average points for, that's your scoring, APF, average points against, that's your defensive scoring, and average turnover differential, ATOD. So congratulations, number one, to the overall average net point winner, and that would be the Detroit Lions, Benny, at plus 12.6. That's a strong showing. The Baltimore Ravens take the number one spot offensively at 31.8 points per game. The LA Chargers, number one in defense at 13.1 points per game. And again, the Buffalo Bills carrying the number one spot, an average turnover differential at plus 1.3 average turnover differential per game. So that means they're taking it away 1.3 times more than they're giving it up. So first of all, a hand to the winners in the number one spot. Ben, you got anything to say about that number one group real quick?
Well, average net points, number one team, Detroit Lions. I would venture to guess that if you went through all the pundits on TV and radio and asked them to give you their power rankings off the top of their head, they would all pretty much start with the Detroit Lions. Maybe couple guys might not. But Buffalo might get a vote or two, and Philly might get a vote or two. But at this point in the season, the Detroit Lions pretty much look like the best team in the league. The average points for going to Baltimore, as you can see, who is right behind them by, what is that?
0.2 points per game.
0.2%, whatever it is, behind them is Detroit. So again, yeah, Baltimore's been having some issues, but they had a few blowouts and they're hanging on to that spot. The LA Chargers, I'm not going to say they're the best defense in the league, but doggone it, they do not give up scores. They hold teams down. Had a little trouble this past weekend, but for the most part, they keep teams out of the end zone. So they've earned that spot. Pittsburgh, who a lot of folks would consider the number one defense, obviously is two, and Minnesota with a really good defense that we thought maybe might be getting figured out, has been stifling teams once again. So they're sitting there. That's your top three. And then turnover differential. Obviously, Buffalo being first can be highly attributed to the lack of turnovers by one Josh Allen, who was plagued by them earlier in his career. But not just that. I don't have the exact numbers, but I was doing some fantasy work today, and I realized that the Buffalo Bills have a good number of interceptions this season from a defense that lost several players to injury and free agency. So what looked like might actually be a little bit of a weakness for Buffalo has turned into a strength. That's a good thing. And of course, the Chargers, because they turn the ball over, that helps them keep teams out of the end zone. Hence, that number two spot in average turnover differential coincides with their number one spot in average points against.
Absolutely. So the highlight in yellow is the top eight. I like to talk about the top eight, not necessarily just the top five or the top 10. That top 25 of the those teams are generally where we find our serious Super Bowl contenders. Now, in net points from Detroit, Buffalo, Philly, Pittsburgh, the Chargers, Washington, Minnesota, and Baltimore. You'll notice Baltimore is in red. And the reason Baltimore is in red because there's a top half and a bottom half to these rankings. And you'll find that those teams that are in red below the first round, number one ranking, are teams that are in the top half on offense and or defense and not in the top half in offense and defense for that same team. In other words, Baltimore, and again, I was kind of on Baltimore as far as being a serious Super Bowl contender. But this is the number that kept screwing me up. 25th ranked, Baltimore giving up 25.3 points per game. That's not Super Bowl. That's not Super Bowl. Now we go back to the top, okay? Tampa Bay, 27.9 points per game in 5th place. Pretty good, pretty good. However, 28th ranking for points against at 26.6 points per game that they're giving up. I hear they're getting back some of their players, so that might help everybody a little bit. Denver, another team, ranked 4th on defense, right? They're moving up though. 22nd, they're ranked 19.7 points per game, tied with Dallas, but behind Jacksonville and the Rams. So they look like they're starting to come together. That might change over the last part of the season. And then Chicago, where again, their defense ranked 7th in the league, only giving up 18.6 points per game. So if Caleb and the boys can get their act together a little bit, they can at least begin to make their move. But they're down at 24th. They're only scoring 19.4 points per game. And so that group right here, that's a struggle bus right there. You'll notice my Niners, my beloved Niners, coming in the bottom half in defense at 22.4. I didn't put them in red because they were not in the top 8 in terms of anything over here. Well, in terms of scoring, they were. So I guess really I could have, because they're in the bottom half and scoring, but they're at least at number 17, 22.4 points per game, tied with Miami. So that's the Sterling net point power rankings. So you can see all the rankings. Where is your team at? And again, your net rankings, net points, and turnover differential can be both positive and negative. And if you're losing a lot, it will be negative. So there you go with your negative net point teams, all the way down to last place at Carolina as a net point. Vegas over here in the turnover at minus 1.6. They're 32nd ranked. So where is your team at offensively, defensively, and net points? Take a look, visit the website, and let us know what you think. All right, Benny, anything else for you on the net point rankings?
Hold on one second. 1, 2, 3, 4. What's 10 out of 14?
What is 10 out of 14?
Yeah, 14 games. I had 10 wins. I smoked it last week, as I knew I would if I stayed away from them biases.
71%.
Nice.
So you said as long as you stay away from those biases, you'd be all right, right?
Yep.
What's 12 out of 14?
No way. I don't know. What is it?
Divided by 14 is 85%.
You didn't get 12 out of 14.
Yes, I did.
What? Oh, so the week I go with the bias in every game, I don't do so good. But the week I decide not to go with the bias, you got me, man.
Good. 75% is darn good now.
Yeah, but you got the numbers on your side. All I got is my little pea brain.
No. You have the numbers and your little pea brain. So well, let's take a look at the matchups because that's what we're talking about here. And we call the matchups the Bias Plus reports. And this would be for week 12, this upcoming week, starting out on Thursday night. Steelers at Browns. The bias plus score is 22.1, and it favors the Steelers. And just want to say, Ben, when I do these numbers, sometimes I see things and I'm sitting there working on the spreadsheet and snickering or laughing because the numbers are actually kind of funny when you think about it. But I noticed a lot of pretty healthy biases all up around the 20 area. So I don't know if that's a byproduct of the fact that we're into week 12 and it's about 6 weeks left and everybody's kind of finding out who they are. So, the biases are starting to separate. But here you got the Steelers. I think this was one of the games where you decided to go against the bias. That was Steelers Ravens, right?
That Steelers Ravens game? Yeah, I believe I did go with the Ravens on that. So yes, indeed, that would have been one of them. The Browns are a pretty sorry 2-8. The Steelers are rolling along very nicely with Russell Wilson at the helm. They're 8-2. So the Browns are going to be the home team. Let's see what happened to the Browns last week. Obviously, they're struggling. They traveled to New Orleans with Jameis Winston as the starting quarterback. New Orleans is a team he used to play for before he came over to the Browns. Jameis is doing his best to lead the offense, and he completed a short pass to Jerry Jeudy that Jeudy turned into an 89-yard TD. But then they missed on a 2-point conversion. That's kind of the story of the Browns' life right about now. That turned out to be the Browns' only score in the first half because kicker Dustin Hopkins missed 2 field goals. It's been very adventurous with kickers this year, I'll tell you that. The defense actually kept it close, and Jameis Winston threw another touchdown pass to Elijah Moore late in the third quarter that actually tied the score at 14. But then the wheels fell off. The Saints pulled away, and they ended up beating the Browns 35-14. So the Browns continue to struggle. Now, Ravens versus Steelers is considered one of the biggest rivalries in the league. The Steelers were the home team this time and knew they had their hands full with the Ravens' number one offense. That's number one per yards per game, not by our rankings. Just want to make that clear. The NFL usually goes by yards. We go by points. But the defense battled and kept the Ravens under control the entire game. They did give up 2 scores, but they intercepted Lamar once, they sacked him twice, and they hit him 6 times. Now, Russell Wilson wasn't able to lead the offense to the end zone, but they were balanced. He threw the ball 36 times. They ran the ball 34 times. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren led the way. They mounted several drives that helped them control the clock, keep Lamar off the field, and put Chris Boswell in position to kick 6 field goals. And that was the winning margin as they beat the Ravens 18-16. Oh, by the way, the highlight of the game, TJ Watt blew Derrick Henry up on a tackle for loss. Great hit. You don't see Derrick Henry get blown up very often.
No,
But TJ got him, man.
But didn't Derrick Henry hurt somebody? Didn't somebody want hitting Derrick Henry and getting carried off the field?
A player or somebody on the sideline?
It was a player.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that because I see people on the sideline were getting splattered all day. So yeah, obviously I'm going to take the Steelers in this one. Browns just don't have the goods.
Interesting numbers underlying this matchup, Benny, because the Steelers are allowing 16.2 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
Browns are scoring 16.2 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yet the Steelers are scoring 23.3 points per game, and the Browns are allowing 24. So, if things just say true, boom, Steelers should be able to take this, and that would be it for them. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That stuff happens, man. It gets really crazy. All right, going with the bias, going with the Steelers. Next up, Cowboys at Commanders. Bias plus score again, 22.9 favors the Commanders. Say it with me, Benny. The Commanders.
The Commanders. Okay, we got an NFC East matchup here. that usually would be a big matchup. But at this point, with the Cowboys looking at a 3-7 record and the Commanders out in front with a 7-4, oh, they're not out in front anymore. The Eagles are number one in the division. However, the Commanders have a commanding 7-4 record. Let's see here. Commanders. Okay, with a Brian Robinson Jr. 1-yard run in the first quarter and a Zane Gonzalez 45-yard field goal in the third quarter, the Commanders found themselves up 10-3 at the 11-minute mark of the third quarter over the home team Philadelphia Eagles. 10-3, they're up over the Eagles. 11 minutes in the third quarter. Then, 3 fourth quarter Philly touchdowns later, and a late touchdown pass to Zach Ertz just made the final score 26-18, and the Commanders lost. Hence, the Eagles are in first place in the NFC East. Now, as far as Dallas is concerned, last weekend, Monday Night Football featured the Battle of Texas between the Houston Texans and obviously the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas's inability to run the ball has them in a position where they are desperately one-dimensional. They only attempted to run the ball 18 times, didn't get much out of it at all. Cooper Rush threw the ball 55 times. That's a lot of times, bro. He completed 32 passes, but only 1 touchdown. The defense, besides Malik Hooker getting an interception, was basically useless. They had 1 sack, 1 quarterback hit, and 2 turnovers for loss. Yes. The offense is pretty inept, and the defense is almost worse. So I'm going to take the Commanders for the win.
All right, going with the bias, going with the Commanders. Next up, Lions at Colts. I believe that was another one where you couldn't believe in the Colts last week, could you?
I said that specifically.
Yeah. Lions at Colts, bias plus score of 29.6. Favors the Lions.
Yes.
But it could be a little bit of a game. A little bit.
Well, it could be. I'm not going to say it won't be. It could be. Like you said, last week when I previewed the Colts versus Jets game, I said I didn't trust Anthony Richardson. I think, in fact, what I said was, if Joe Flacco was starting the game, I would have went with the Colts.
Right.
That was my quote, basically. But somebody surprised me. After being benched for 2 weeks, not only did the young fellow play pretty well, but he showed poise and maturity. He was 20 of 30, not bad. 272 yards, pretty productive. 1 touchdown. He did throw an interception, and he ran 10 times for another 32 yards and 2 more touchdowns. Very nice day for Anthony Richardson. The second touchdown came on the drive right after the Jets scored, and with 46 seconds left, the Colts retook the lead, and they won the game 28-27. Now, last week in Houston, Jared Goff threw a career-high 5 interceptions, last week being that would have been week 10 I'm talking about. He threw 5 interceptions, and the Lions still found a way to win. This past weekend, they didn't have anything to overcome as they completely dismantled the horrible Jacksonville Jaguars 52-6. Jared Goff was scary accurate, super productive. Listen to these numbers: 24-29, 412 yards, gosh, and 4 more touchdowns. Woo! Please take the Lions.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving right along, going with the bias, going with the Lions. Chiefs at Panthers. Bias plus score of 19.2 favors the Chiefs. See what I was saying about these bias plus score? They're all in that.
Yeah, well, you got a couple of contending teams that got some softies on their schedule.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So I guess I gave away who I'm picking in this one. But anyway, Chiefs are going to take a little trip to Carolina. I believe what you'll call this one is a get-right game. But let's see what happened to the Chiefs last week. Oh, my. They're not 10-0. They're 9-1. They took their first loss of the season on the road in Buffalo. The Bills beat them 30-21. Patrick Mahomes threw 3 touchdown passes, but he also threw 2 interceptions, and the offense was only able to accumulate 259 total yards. That's not much for the Kansas City Chiefs, although they kind of been living off of those kind of numbers lately, but they weren't able to do it this past weekend. The team was actually penalized a total of 6 times. That's not good. They lost the time of possession battle, and the defense was very ineffective. They got no sacks on Josh Allen. They only laid hands on him 4 times. Not a good day for the Chiefs. Now, the Panthers are coming off the bye. Last time we saw them, they were actually winning their 3rd game of the season over my New York Giants. Anyway, like I said, get right game for the Chiefs. Take the Chiefs to win.
All right, so you're going with the bias again, eh?
Yeah.
You're messing around with the bias, buddy. Going with the Chiefs. Vikings at Bears. Bias plus score 4.7 favors the Vikings, Ben, and that's to some degree that Bears defense. And now you got that Vikings defense. So can the Bears put the kibosh on Sam Darnold?
Do me a favor, real quick. Where's the Bears defense ranked in points against?
Where is the Bears defense ranked in points against? That would be 7th.
7th?
Allowing 18.7 points per game.
Okay. Vikings got the bias. I'm making up my mind here. Okay, got it. So anyway, last week after the Bears lost to the Patriots, again, when I say last week, that would have been week 10. Offensive coordinator Shane Waldron was fired. He was replaced by passing game coordinator Thomas Brown. They hosted division rival Green Bay, and the offense actually appeared to run a lot smoother than it did the 3 weeks previous. So we saw some improvement there, no doubt about it. Caleb Williams threw for 231 yards, and he ran for 70 yards. Nice, kind of cut him loose there. DeAndre Swift ran the ball 14 times. He hasn't been getting the number of carries he should have been getting either. But he got 14 carries this time, turned that into 71 yards, and his 39-yard touchdown run at the end of the 3rd quarter gave the Bears the lead in the game, 19-14. With 4 minutes left in the game, the Packers started a drive that went 78 yards in 4 plays and ended with a Jordan Love 1-yard touchdown run that put the Packers up 20-19, but left 2:59 on the clock. Everybody knows in the NFL, that's an eternity. The Bears then drove 42 yards to the Green Bay 28. It was not easy. The Packers defense put up a fight, but the Bears had to try a 46-yard field goal, and it got blocked, and they lost the game.
Hard
Meanwhile,
losses for the Bears, right? That's the second big loss.
Yeah, it is. Meanwhile, Sam Darnold, who had thrown 5 interceptions over the previous 2 games, wasn't picked off at all by the Tennessee Titans, but he did lose a fumble. However, he threw for 246 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown, and the Brian Flores defense was stifling once again. They had 1 interception. They forced several punts, 3 of which were 3 and outs, and they also forced 2 turnovers on downs. So they stopped them on downs twice. That happened in the second half when it really counted, along with 5 sacks, 9 quarterback hits, and 10 tackles for loss. Definitely going with the Vikings here. Too much on offense, even for a pretty good Bears defense. And I don't think Caleb Williams is going to have a clue against Brian Flores' defense.
All right, bias plus score 4.7 favors the Vikings. Not a big bias, but Ben is going with it anywho. All right. Patriots at Dolphins. Bias plus score 3.2. Favors the Dolphins, Benny.
It's a small one.
Let me say, my vote for Tua, at least be in a conversation for MVP.
Here we go.
As bad as they were playing, they actually have a positive bias. Now it's against the Patriots. And this is a division contest, isn't it? So this could
Yes, it is. AFC East. Yes, it
battle.
is. Okay.
I might look at this as my intriguing game here, Benny.
You think so?
Yeah, well, again, me talking up Tua's coming back. They're getting a little bit better.
And how much is that bias?
Was that Drake May played for the Patriots, playing a little bit better?
Yeah, 3.2 is not a very big bias
It's
either.
a small bias. I usually go with the smaller biases for the intriguing games. You don't need no big blowout bias like the Lions have. It's not a whole bunch of intrigue there for me. Even though I like
Right,
the
right.
blowout. So
Well,
this is a candidate.
it's a candidate. Okay, that's cool. After a really tough road win over the LA Rams back in week 10, Miami got a chance to flex their muscles at home against the Raiders. They hadn't scored 30 points all season. Two has been missing, but they trounced the Raiders 34-19. Tua led a fairly balanced, extremely methodical offense. Excellent play calling in this game. Several clock consuming drives. Three of those drives were more than 7 minutes long, and all three of those long drives ended in scores. That's how you want your offense to run. The defense wasn't great, but they tightened the screws in the fourth quarter enough to hold off the Raiders' comeback attempts. So a good win for Tua and the Dolphins. Drake May's trial by fire, as I like to call it, continues as the Patriots fell to the LA Rams at home 28-22. Pretty close game. They ran the ball pretty well, 125 total yards on 30 total carries. And Drake May wasn't terrible, 30 of 40, 282, two touchdowns. That's a nice day. But he is a rookie. He turned it over twice, once on an interception, once on a fumble on a strip sack. They actually had several chances. They actually had several chances to take command in this game, but they had trouble punching it into the end zone. 3 times they drove deep into the Rams' territory. Twice they drove into the red zone, and they had to settle for field goals each one of those times. So they are not quite ready for prime time. I'm going to go with the Dolphins at home and with the bias on this
Well,
one.
with Tua and the boys, then the Dolphins going with the bias. Excellent, excellent. Who's up next? The Titans at the Texans. Bias score 18.5. Favors them Texans.
Yeah, Texans are starting to come alive again. They had a little couple of hiccups there, but they're 7-4. They're going to be the home team in this one. They hosted the Cowboys on Monday Night Football, which we talked about earlier when we talked about the Cowboys. And the Cowboys put 2 scoring drives together in the second quarter for a touchdown and a field goal. The other 3 quarters of the game, Houston's defense put the clamps on them. They recorded 5 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, 6 tackles for loss. And here's a stat that I don't talk about a lot unless it's really a commanding stat. And this one is they had 10 passes defensed. So basically what that means is ball got thrown to a receiver and they either intercepted it, knocked it down, or played the guy close or whatever. But they defensed 2 passes that turned into incompletions. That's a big stat for them. CJ Stroud wasn't great in this one, but the run game was effective with Joe Mixon leading the way with 109 yards on 20 carries and 3 big touchdowns. Titans, Will Levis. We haven't had much to talk about on the positive side for old Will Levis. So here's a little something for Titans fans. In their game at home against the Vikings, Levis threw the longest touchdown so far this season. It was a 98-yard catch and run to Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. The score actually pulled the Titans within 16-10 in the third quarter. At the end of the third, Levis completed a 51-yard touchdown pass to Calvin Ridley. Unfortunately, that one got called back on a penalty, and they had to settle for a field goal. So instead of starting the fourth quarter down 23-17, they start the fourth quarter down 23-13, and that is how the game ended, with them losing 23-13. I'm going to go with the Texans. They're pretty hot right now. Defense is looking really good. CJ Stroud's been a little up and down this season, but I think they have plenty enough to beat the Titans.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Um, hmm. Texans at Titans. Joe Mixon. Somebody was saying on the TV that they were talking about Cincinnati Bengals being cheap. They didn't want to pay nobody.
Yes.
To get away, you know? And people think Mixon was a much more important part of that team than what, apparently they valued him at. So he's being Mixon now.
That story sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Did you say that at some point?
I'm saying it right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right about Mixon.
Team doesn't want to pay their starting running back. He goes to another team and blows up.
Yeah, well, you're living that, right?
Yeah, boy, am I ever.
Buccaneers, the Buccaneers at the Giants. Speaking of your New York football guys, last score of 10.3 favors the Buccaneers. Benny, who the heck are they really gonna start DeVito? They told Drew Lock, man, yeah, chill out, Drew. We got Danny. Nah, I keep wanting to call him Danny. DeVito, he played last year. He knows a little bit about us. He brought a little spark. We're gonna try him out.
That's bull. Anyway, since you brought that up, I was going to do them second, but I'm going to do them now since you brought that up. So the last time we saw the Giants, they were preparing to come back home from a long flight to Germany to lose to the lowly Carolina Panthers. This week, they finally decided to bench Daniel Jones and start Tommy DeVito with Drew Lock as the backup. Now, I just like you said, I want to say, I think that sucks. I think that Drew Lock, who's been Jones's backup all season, I think it sucks that he didn't get the starting nod. I don't understand the logic behind this. And I listened to Dayball's explanation, and it just didn't sound right to me. I'm not sure how to read into it, so I'm not going to speculate on that particular thing. But I'm pretty damn sure that Daniel Jones will never play another down for my G-men, ever. And the reason I say that is not only did they bench him and move DeVito to the starter and make Locke DeVito's backup, but I believe sometime today they signed Ken Boyle and installed him as the third stringer. So we ain't never going to see Daniel Jones ever again in the big blue. And I'm very thrilled about that. Now, the Buccaneers and the Giants are both coming off the bye, if I neglected to say that. The last time we saw the Bucs, they were losing on a last-second field goal to the Niners. That was their fourth loss in a row. The bye couldn't have come at a better time for them, so they're coming off the bye right into a nice get-right game against my lowly Giants. I'm picking the Buccaneers to win this one.
Going with the Bucs, going with the bias makes sense. There's a little bit too much confusion going over there in New York, and that's for both teams. A little too much confusion. Broncos at Raiders. Foster score of 20.5 favors the Broncos.
Nice. During their bye week, the Raiders fired their offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, and they replaced him with the passing game coordinator, Scott Turner. By the way, Scott Turner is the son of Norv Turner, who's been an offensive coordinator and head coach for several teams over a long NFL career, and in fact, right now is a senior advisor for the Raiders. Now, there was noticeable improvement on the offense for the Raiders as they scored on 4 of their 7 drives, and they converted 8 of 14 third down attempts. All that being said, though, the defense struggled, especially against the pass, and that's why they lost to the Dolphins 34-19. Now, the Broncos snapped a two-game losing streak and rolled over the Falcons 38-6. That's one of them games when nothing went right for the Falcons. I mean, nothing. Rookie quarterback Bo Nix, a.k.a. Bo Breeze, enhanced his Rookie of the Year chances with a super efficient 28 of 33, 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no turnovers. Man, Bo Nix? I can't believe it. Anyway, Denver defense, which is number 4 in our rankings in average points against, was especially stingy against the Falcons, holding them to 2 field goals. They sacked Kirk Cousins 4 times. They hit him 6 times, and they racked up 8 tackles for loss. I gotta go with the Broncos on this one. Yeah, Raiders don't have much to offer.
I believe Bo Nix's average yards per pass is at an all-time high also, somewhere up around 9 or something like that. I understand he was known for throwing a lot of screens and
check downs and stuff. That's what you do when you
stuff like that.
That's what you do when you're easing a rookie in.
Right. So he's easing out of that rookie thing now, though. So
he's got command of that offense right now. They're not asking a whole lot out of him, but they are asking a good amount out of him, and he is up for the task.
There you go, up to the task. Well, Benny, are the Seahawks up to the task? Because the Cardinals are going to go into the Seahawks, according to the bias, score a 5 and get a win. Them Cardinals, the Seahawks is feeling good after beating my beloved Niners. But the question is, Kyler Murray, he's getting it done.
Yeah, I tell you, man. First of all, let me just say, the NFC West, as we know it, has been turned upside down. The 6-4 Cardinals are in first place with the Rams, Seahawks, and Niners in that order, all sitting at 5-5. The Seahawks are coming off a big division win over the Niners, 20-17. Both teams had trouble mounting viable attacks in the first half, and the Niners held a 7-6 lead at halftime. After opening the second half with an interception, Geno Smith led 2 touchdown drives, the second one with 12 seconds left on the clock after I don't think that's right. I think that was supposed to be 12 minutes. I wrote something down incorrectly. Anyway, after an 80-yard, 11-play drive, Geno won the game with a scrambling, rushing touchdown. Big win for the Seahawks. Now, the Cardinals are coming off the bye. Last time we saw them, they were smacking the Jets around 31-6. I'm going to go with the Cardinals in this one. I think Kyler Murray is going to be kind of tough to figure out. They're coming off a bye. Everybody's healthy as far as I know. Harrison Jr., the tight end McBride, James Conner's looking great. Trey Benson is getting a little bit of work. I really like the Cardinals, and I think the defense is playing pretty well too. I'll tell you what, though. The Seahawks are extremely, extremely dangerous. Geno's throwing the ball all over the yard, all over the place. Geno's passing stats are way up there. But I'm going to pick the Cardinals to win this one.
And what's the running back's name?
James Conner.
For the Seahawks.
Kenneth Walker III.
Yeah. My Niners had a little bit of a problem with him, too. So that could be a good game. Potentially an intriguing game, Benny. Potentially. Small bias. Division matchup. The division is wide open for anybody to take it at this particular point. So that's going to start to shape up in the next few weeks. But you're going with the bias, going with the Cardinals. All right. Well, speaking of my beloved 49ers, they're going to go in to Lambeau Field and meet the Green Bay Packers. However, the bias plus score of 1.7. 1.7, less than 2. Favors the Packers, Benny. We just have not been getting it done lately.
Yeah, 5-5 there. Still a tight race in your division, but the Packers are going to be a formidable foe, especially at home, and they're sitting at 7-3. playing very, very hard because they're trying to keep up with Minnesota and with Detroit. So, as we just discussed, the Niners lost at home to Seattle, and they also lost their chance to secure second place in the division all for themselves. They held a 17-13 lead when they stopped the Seahawks on downs on the San Fran 37-yard line with 3:56 left to play in the game. Unfortunately, they weren't able to sustain a drive. They ended up punting back to Seattle, which gave them just enough time to march down the field and let Geno run that last touchdown in, and Niners ended up losing 2017. Now, the Packers traveled to division rival Chicago and ran into a more efficient offense, as we talked about before, after the Bears coaching changes. In the end, it made things interesting, but the defense tightened in the fourth quarter and forced the Bears punt, which allowed Jordan Love to lead a drive that he finished off with a touchdown run himself, leaving 2:59 on the clock. Like we said, that's an eternity. The Bears drove to the Packers' 28-yard line, but the game-winning field goal try was blocked, and the Packers won the game 2019. Woo. I'm not sure about this one, brother. I really believe, this is my intriguing game.
Let me give you some more stats. Let me give you some more stats. This is fun.
Go ahead.
Average points for the Niners, 25 points per game.
Okay.
Packers, 25 points per game.
Oh, geez.
Now, they are, in terms of net points, okay, the Packers are ranked 11th, and the Niners are ranked 12th, okay? So the Packers have a small net point bias. But then when you go over to defense, the Niners are ranked, 16th at 22.2 points per game. Packers are ranked 10th, but it's only 21.3 points per game, so only about a point differential between all of those ranking locations. But the Packers also have a slight edge in terms of turnover differential, and that's kind of what kept them in the positive on the bias side. So that's kind of how this thing all worked. Niners at Packers, small bias favoring the Packers. You're going with?
It was already close in my mind, so close I could barely make up my mind. Then you gave me the numbers, which lets me know that the closeness in my mind is just as close in real life. Jeez. I believe the Niners have the wherewithal to pull it together and get this game. I believe that y'all do. I think that Purdy realizes that Juwan Jennings is a bigger playmaker than anybody believed. I also believe that he realizes that McCaffrey can get it done on the ground, but they got to use him out in open space and throw him the ball too. If they put those things together, the 49ers will beat the Packers in Green Bay.
That's a big.
I'm going to go with the Niners.
You're going against the bias.
Yes.
Going with my beloved Niners. I can't be mad at that. I cannot be mad at that. All right. Next up, Benny. Wait a minute. If I remember correctly, let me take a quick look here. This would be the Sunday night game, is it?
Believe so.
All righty. We have some Sunday night football here. We got a good one. All right. Eagles at Rams. Bias score 9.8 favors the Eagles. The Eagles. What do you got?
I kind of been waiting for this game.
Oh, okay.
So the Eagles got to travel to the West Coast to play the Rams. Let's talk about their last game. Once again, I know Eagle fans, every time I bring it up, they poo-poo it. They don't think nothing of it. But once again, the Eagles failed to score in the first quarter of a game and only scored 3 points in the first half. This is week 12. They've only scored in the first quarter of 2 games so far this season. And both those games, the teams that they played turned the ball over with fumbles and put them in field position. They have not been able to drive and earn a touchdown or a field goal in the first quarter of all those other games. But I digress.
Yeah, because they're still winning, right?
Because they're still winning. Anyway, they did get a field goal in the second half of the game against Washington. As strong as an effort as their defense put up all day, and I will tell Eagle fans when they start talking about Hurts, Barkley, it's the defense that's getting it done. Week after week, they get better and better and better. All of a sudden, they're not letting teams run all over them like they were before. Quinyon Mitchell is looking like a star. That kid is a stud corner, man. I'm telling you, he's good. He's really good. They put up a great effort. They did it all day. The offense, however, looked like it was asleep for three quarters. But then Jalen Hurts, with 2:27 left in the third quarter, led a very well-balanced 76-yard drive, mixed in a lot of passing with a lot of running. Kenneth Gainwell got a couple rushes. Barkley did his thing. He threw passes to both Devontae Smith and to A.J. Brown. It was a very nice drive, very nice-looking drive. They finished it off with a 1-yard tush-push touchdown. After that, it turned into the Saquon Barkley show. He scored twice in the fourth quarter, one on an end run, 23 yards, one up the middle for 39 yards, and they finished off the Commanders 26-18. Rams defense struggled to slow down Drake May and the Patriots, but their offense, led by their big four of Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua, is still one of the most formidable groups of skill position players in the league. And they led the way to a 28-22 win. Stafford threw for 295 and 4 touchdowns. Williams ran for 86, averaging 5.7 yards per carry. Nacua caught 7 balls for 123 and a touchdown, and Kupp caught 6 balls for 106 and 2 touchdowns. That kind of output is going to be very, very difficult for the Eagles to beat. I think they challenged the Eagles defense even as well as I said that they're playing. And if they can get out to a lead on the slow starting Eagles, this might be a game that the Rams can hold on and win. I'm going to bet on that. I'm picking the Rams in this one.
Ooh, going against the bias, going with the Rams. Interesting, Benny. Interesting. All right. That would be Sunday night. This would be Monday night. Ravens at Chargers, that number 1 defense. Ravens just struggled against Pittsburgh's defense, and the Chargers defense is ranked just a tad above. Bias plus score 4.2 actually favors those Chargers. Potentially intriguing game.
Yes. This is another candidate. This is the Harbaugh Bowl, folks. We've been waiting for the Harbaugh Bowl.
John against, that's right. The Harbaugh Bowl. That's right. Oh, my goodness.
John against Jim. And they almost have identical records. The Ravens are 7-4. Chargers will be home. They're 7-3. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So, Baltimore back in week 7 was the number 1 team in average points for. I had to dig back in the archives to find out when it was that they were last sitting there at number 1 in our rankings for average points for. Since then, they have dropped. It is now week 12. They are sitting at 8th in that same category in our rankings. This past weekend, they lost a tough AFC North battle, 18-16 to the Steelers, who are number 2 in average points against. Strange. But in a game where the lead was never more than 6 points until the fourth quarter, Derrick Henry only had 13 carries. We've talked about this. We've talked about identity. We've talked about teams knowing who they are. He gained 65 yards on his 13 carries. He scored 1 touchdown. Lamar threw the ball 33 times. He did throw a touchdown pass, and he did throw an interception. but he only ran 4 times for 46 yards. Two big parts of their offense didn't really come into fruition. I don't understand what they're doing there. The defense, which has been a bit of an issue, actually played pretty well, and they kept the Steelers out of the end zone. Marlon Humphrey picked Russell Wilson off once, but the Ravens couldn't overtake 6 field goals by Chris Boswell. If the other team can only get field goals, and you have the best dual threat quarterback and the best running back in the league, how can you not grind out a win? I don't get it. Anyway, that was against the number 2 ranked points against team. Now they got to go visit the Chargers, who are the number 1 ranked average points against team. They had trouble with the high-flying Bengals offense, however. After taking a 24-6 lead into halftime and a 27-6 lead at the 10:29 mark of the third quarter, Cincinnati came storming back on them. I don't know if the defense, I don't know what happened. Luckily for the Chargers, the Bengals kicker missed 2 field goals along the way, and that left them just enough breathing room to pull out the win with a late 29-yard J.K. Dobbins touchdown run, and they pulled out the win 34-27. Now, that barrage of points late in the game against the Chargers, I believe, was an anomaly. I'm going with the Chargers at home to win this game. I'm going with Jim to beat John.
Go with Jim in the Hard Bowl, eh?
Yep.
Man. Well, you got 2 mobile quarterbacks, here, so that's going to be interesting. You got one brutish running back for the Ravens. The Chargers got a decent run game, right? They're getting it done. Did you talk?
Oh yeah, they got JK. Yeah, JK's having a great year.
Man.
Not to mention that Gus Edwards is back from injury, so now they got their 1-2 punch.
Right, not like a 1-2 punch, man. I'm telling you, Detroit Lions 1-2 punch is really showing people that you can do that. I know, even in terms of my Niners, I keep thinking, I'm bad with names today. The guy who had been running me back while McCaffrey was out, running the ball for us while McCaffrey was out, him and Garendo are all good running backs,
Yes.
And I would not beat up McCaffrey too much if you don't have to. You know what I mean? You can run that ball with them. But in any event, going back to this one with the Chargers, so you like the Chargers going with the Jim instead of the John.
Yep.
On Monday Night Football. All right, Benny. Well, being that that's Monday night, that's the last matchup for Week 12. But Benny, there's some unfinished business. Well, first off, there's a couple teams missing. More than a couple teams. Teams that are bye.
This is a huge bye week.
Look at this, man. You got 6 teams on the bye here. Falcons, Bills, Bengals, Jaguars, Saints, and Jets.
Let me tell you something. This is the part of the game of fantasy that a lot of people don't take note of. When you're drafting your team, you have to be very careful about bye weeks. People just be picking players. I like him. And then the bye weeks come, and you barely have enough guys to put in a roster. What the heck? I don't want to jinx myself, but I got a couple of fantasy games that I can pretty much just check off right now because half the guys' roster is devastated by the bye week.
So you can see his roster, so you know what's coming for him.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's crazy. Yeah, so it's bye week for sure. The 6 teams. In a normal 16-game season, we got 6. That's 3 games. So it's only 13 games for the season, or for the weekend, rather, Benny. So we got to get what we got to get right. It was 14 last week. See if I can carry this percentage.
Yeah.
There's one additional piece of business that we have to handle. Are you ready, Benny?
Yeah, who got it done?
The Bias Plus Buster of the Week, the Seahawks.
Oh, really? What the?
That was one of the games I got wrong, man. We had the bias had the Niners winning that game.
Wait a minute. That was the Buster?
Yeah, we only missed on 2 games, so it wasn't a lot of competition for the Buster. The only games we missed on was this game.
All right, refresh my. Oh, wait. What was the bias? 11.6?
The bias for the Niners was 8.6. Oh yeah,
8.6.
it was 11.6 total, but you had 8.6 and they won by what, 5 or 3, 4, something like that.
They won by 3.
By 3. So yeah, 11.6.
That's the Buster, that was it?
Yeah, because
Wow.
the only other game I got wrong was the Eagles game. The Commanders were a 1.3 bias plus score favorite.
Okay, right. Okay. Interesting.
So the Eagles won by what, 8? So it was
Yeah, I believe so.
So it's 9.3 versus 11.6.
Yep,
Not a lot
that's it.
popping when you're getting them all right, Benny. And
Yeah.
somehow I said 85, but my calculation on my spreadsheet says 90%. So I like the
I was gonna say,
90% was better.
yeah, I think that's better. Yeah,
And
definitely.
12 divided by 14 came out to 90. And then
Yep.
what happened was it got rounded up. Well, almost
Okay.
90. But in any event, yeah, man. Only 2 that we got wrong. So congratulations
Can't
to
beat
the
that.
Seahawks.
Golly. 12 out of 14. Yo, that's tremendous.
Yeah,
I thought I was doing something to hit 10 out of 14. I'm gonna pat myself on the back.
it is amazing.
But that just goes to show that these calculations, these numbers really mean something. When you have a week like this, that kind of tells you, just like Bill Parcells used to say, you are what your record says you are. What we can say is you are what your points, what your bias says you are.
Yeah, I'm gonna
You know what I
take
mean?
a look. I want to study a little bit to see if the bias win percentage, what it looks like if you look out over, let's say, the 4 parts of the season, like the first half
Okay.
versus the second half. Because now, like you said last week, now things are starting to gel for teams. You're starting to know who's who. But
Right.
but that's not our decision. It's just in the numbers. The who's who is just
Yeah.
showing itself at this point.
Right.
So
Right.
you
Right.
said people aren't walking around going, I wonder what the Detroit Lions are going to do this year. Now they're all like, the Detroit Lions is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
Like I told
Yeah,
you.
well, we're coming into the time when the pretenders start to really separate from the real contenders here in the next few weeks. It's going to be very, very, very interesting to see how people rise and fall in their top 8, top 10 there. But most of the teams that are in there right now, if any of them drop out of there, I'm going to be surprised. Some more than others, but right now, those teams look pretty strong.
Yeah, and we're at the point where you got your 2 and your 3 win team, so a certain percentage they're done. They're not,
Right.
So their decision making from this point on, is skewed by the fact that they know they're not going to be competing for a Super Bowl, at this particular point. So you got a certain group that will be, and that's that top half of that listing. So,
Right.
woo, good show, Benny. Good show. Any last mentions or comments?
No, sir. Oh, wait. Next week is Thanksgiving, correct?
I do believe my wife bought a turkey, so we should be somewhere.
That's how my wife bought a turkey. That's a good way to know. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I remember. Not only do we have our Thanksgiving games, which I think there's 3 of them, but there's also a Good Friday game.
Oh man,
I'm sorry, Black Friday.
Black Friday, right,
Yes.
right.
So
Okay.
Thursday
We selling
football,
footballs, or what are you gonna be doing?
Friday night football. I'm not sure who's playing. That's next
Well,
week. I'm not gonna look it up. You're the guy that looks up stuff
yeah,
real
we'll worry
fast.
about that when it comes. I had something
Yeah.
to show. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Ah, yes, here it is. Here it is. So I just, you and I like certain things. I like speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's a next gen stats. Let's just look at the top 10. Kevon Turpin's coming in at number one in miles per hour. Week 11 on the 64-yard reception. Dude was going 22.36 miles per hour. He was followed by Brian Thomas Jr. of Jacksonville, another wide receiver who took it 85 yards at 22.15 miles per hour. And Jahmyr Gibbs had that 70-yard rushing touchdown where he was going at 22.03 miles per hour. Now, Barkley actually got in on the speed thing here with a 55-yard touchdown going 21.93 miles per hour. Followed by Nico Collins. Nico's back, Benny.
He goes back.
Nico's back. 21.89 miles per hour. Jordan Addison and Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, again, here's Jahmyr Gibbs again, top 3 of the top 10 speeds. 21.8 miles per hour. Tied with Jordan Addison. Derrick Henry shows up at 21.72 miles per hour.
He keeps telling people he's fast.
Yeah, tied with Saquon, who came in at 9th and 10th. So at 21.72 and then 10th at 21.66 miles per hour. This is up on Ben and Barry on football. I just wanted to share that because these speed demons are out there. Some of the guys, Barkley is fast, but you don't expect that he's going to show up in the top 10 fastest runs. Like
when you got breakaway runs like he's had, you're going to see that speed.
Man, top 10 speed, though. That's pretty good, man. Because, Jahmyr Gibbs and them guys, Nico Collins are flying. Those guys are moving. So when you're
Gibbs is really, really fast. Gibbs, he's fast and quick.
And quick,
yeah.
And physical. So, absolutely. All right, Benny, that's all I got.
That's all I got.